Is GNOMES admire a clue to solving the New Orleans puzzle using a GNOMON theory? A solve clue for the New Orleans puzzle from the book, A Secret, A Treasure Hunt for Lafayette Square, New Orleans. Let's face it. It just makes sense to interpret the lines, gnomes admire, fays delight to mean something other than finding an actual gnome or fairy, statue near a dig site to solve the New Orleans puzzle from The Secret A Treasure Hunt. I understand if you believe City Park, with its Storyland fairy tale themed area, as a possible place for the treasure burial site. There is similar imagery and arches at Armstrong Park. However, the evidence in the image and verse are just too overwhelming for the dig site to be anywhere other than Lafayette Square. Price used wordplay as clues in his other puzzles to make a connection to something other than its literal meaning, and one must consider this as well for the NOLA puzzle. The use of the fairies and gnomes kept with the theme of the book but not the actual solves. The NOLA puzzle does not provide specific step-by-step guidance to a treasure location as in some of the other puzzles. In the middle of 21 and 15 rows down to the ground are the only numerical directions provided. Believing the 21 line is referring to city blocks in the business district and the 15 rows down to ground would be some sort of structure, we are left with finding where the namesakes meeting near this site. But how do we get there? Look at this evidence regarding gnomes admire and decide for yourself. The main element in the NOLA image is the clock, a device or instrument to measure and indicate time. That is the same definition for a gnomon. The other element of the gnomon definition is that it is also used to represent an L-shaped figure with equal arms. A right angle. Let's look at the elements of a gnomon in comparison to the NOLA image to see how I believe Price provided these clues to push the searcher in this direction to come up with a dig location. Look at these definitions for a gnomon from Encyclopedia Britannica and Wikipedia. The definitions mention right angles and smaller squares from larger ones, as well as the standard use of an upright rod on a vertical surface. However, for my solve, I believe Price used the words gnomes admire for the searcher to use the gnomon theory of right angles from certain points and to form a square, from a square, Lafayette Square, to find the dig site. And in geometry, a gnomon is a plane figure formed by removing a similar parallelogram from a corner of a larger parallelogram, or more generally, a figure that added to a given figure, makes a larger figure of the same shape. Take note of these elements within the clock. The clock face itself is square and each corner is a right angle, along with the 90 at bottom right indicating a 90-degree angle. The newsboy's upward arm and sight line create a right angle. The shaded squares on the outside of the clock have baffled searchers from the beginning. The half-moon shape created by the clock inner circle and ending at the boy's hand and foot. Here are the similarities in our image with a vertical gnomon. See how Price integrated right angles and the markings of a sundial into his clock image. The three gray shaded blocks in the clock have never been explained. This has to be what Price intended when he used gnomes admire in the verse, to use a gnomon theory for the solve. Look at these similarities when comparing what's represented in the clock face with that of an actual sundial and the use of a vertical gnomon. That's at least 3 different elements in the image making reference to a gnomon. But what does it mean and how should it be applied to the puzzle? For me, it came late one night where I needed to explore, and when I did, the evidence fell into place. I envisioned imaginary lines intersecting from the namesakes, resulting in a parallelogram from a parallelogram or cutting a smaller square from a larger one. Please check out my complete NOLA solve video on YouTube to see where the 15 rows down to the ground should be, what the hand and mask on a stick represents, as well as my dig spot and all of my other photo evidence.